Hi everyone, welcome to this evening's webinar, Getting the Most Out of Our Career Consultations. Tonight, you're joined by me. I am the recruitment consultant at the OA. I have experience of recruitment across a variety of sectors and I specialise in social media recruitment. We are also joined by Clive Lowe.
Hi, good evening everybody. I'm a career consultant in the Officers Association, so tonight's webinar is predominantly about what we as career consultants deliver to you, the client.
Okay, so let's get started. So what today's webinar will look at is the difference between recruitment agencies and career consultants, what a career consultant is and what is the consultation itself, how to prepare for a consultation and what goes into a consultation, what you get out of it, and who provides these career consultants. Okay, Clive, so what's the difference between a recruitment agency and a career consultant?
Well, it's encapsulated in the slide there. Recruitment agencies, consultancies, executive search, and so on. They're primarily appointed by the employer who pays them for the specific task or role that they've been given. So their responsibility, recruitment agency's responsibility, is to their paying employer and not to you or me, the punter. A career consultant has a one-to-one relationship with the individual, with the consultee, and the career consultant's role is to do the best he can for the client, whereas the recruitment agency's role is to make a return on its investment.
Great. And Clive, as you are a career consultant, do you want to tell us more about what you do?
Well, I thought what I'd give you is what the CIPD defines as a career consultant. And it's simply those who provide counselling and other services. And fundamentally, it's to create greater awareness of you, the client's skills, capabilities, limitations, and so on. It's to help you pursue and identify potential career opportunities. These may be obvious to you, they may not be, and so a career consultant may actually assist you in looking at alternative options. And then to help you manage the transition, which is typically the sort of client that we get, is somebody transitioning from the armed forces to the outside world. But it also applies to those of you who may already have left the services and looking to transition between your current civilian role and a future potential career.
Okay. I attend a lot of events, and a lot of people ask me, what is the point of having a career consultant at the meeting? And I say, for those who are in transition from the armed forces to the civilian world, your aim is to find long-term sustainable employment. So the aim of these are to research, refine, and be aware of your job campaigns. Career consultations form an important part of the research and refinement phase. So what is its purpose?
Well, a career consultation, and the way we run them here at the Officers Association is a one-to-one session. It's the career consultant with the client, and it is confidential between the two parts to that agreement. And the career consultant's role is to help you, essentially is to help you in your transition, with the proviso that if you've already left and you come back to us for advice on changing careers in the outside world, of course we will give you an equal value consultation. Generally, the career consultants here at the OA and the other providers as well, that we'll talk about a little bit later, all have both a military background as well as experience in the outside world. For my own self, I served for 12 years, and then I've had more years than I care to remember of working in the outside, in the commercial world. And having those two elements to your background helps us give, I think, information which is balanced and based on experience rather than based on theory or coming out of books or manuals. Fundamentally, the aim is to help you, the client, find long-term sustainable employment, as Ashka's already said. What it isn't, though, is a shrink session. We're not there really to help you if you've got unusual problems or personal problems, there are other specialists who are more qualified than we are to do that sort of thing.
So this is all job focused and aiding the transition, as Clive says. So how do you prepare for a career consultation? You will have, so you identify in advance what you'd like to achieve from the session. So would you like your CV to be reviewed? Would you like your LinkedIn to be looked at? Say, for example, you're applying for a particular job. Would you like that job application looked over, as well as having your cover letter red penned, so to speak? Do you like advice about recruiters? I think we specialize particularly in letting our candidates know about networking, how to network, what kind of networking groups you can attend.
And we also have a very useful contacts list, which are networkers that once you come to a career consultation, we'll put you onto that list and point out people that you might feel it's worth your while addressing or approaching.
Right. And also, I think it's a good place to bolster your confidence. You have a completely impartial soundboard who you can bounce off of, and, you know, no question is a silly question in these kind of meetings, especially when it comes to, you know, applying for jobs or what font to even use on your CV.
But one of the important things is to recognise it's a confidential one-on-one session, so you can actually ask all the questions you'd like to ask, and hopefully you'll get sensible and balanced and answers based on experience.
Okay, so what is the content of a career consultation?
Well, on the whole, a career consultant will offer this confidential one-to-one guidance on a variety of different things. And here, we've listed here in the slide some of those. So it's a review of your career so far, the things that you've done, the achievements that you have, the qualifications and experience that you've gained. We'll help you with planning your next steps. How do you go about your transition? And what are you trying to get out of your transition? And what is it you're looking for? What will motivate you, if you like, in your next career? So helping you to identify that. A big part of what we do is to help you update your CV. And I think my colleagues here are specialists in this. So updating your CV and getting it into something which promotes you to the best possible advantage. And we do quite a lot of work on that, and we go backwards and forwards with some of our clients, helping them to generate a CV, which really does promote them. We'll also look at your LinkedIn profile if you wish us to. Not everybody has a LinkedIn profile, and some people don't like to go on LinkedIn because of their backgrounds. But if you are on LinkedIn, our recommendation is that you are on it wholeheartedly. So we'll help you maximize the benefits out of your LinkedIn profile. And it is when you're in your transition from leaving the services to the outside commercial world, LinkedIn is a marketing tool. It's a tool that's selling you to a potential employer. So it needs to be drafted and phrased in that particular way. We'll look at job searching strategies, ideas for you, people that you might like to talk to, various other aspects to that. We'll also look at applications and covering letters, as Ashka has already mentioned. And for those of you who need this, we'll help you prepare for interviews. We're not specialists in preparing for interviews because there are different aspects to interviews in each one, but we can help you on that as well. So that's just some of the things that we will deal with in a career consultation with you.
So speaking of CVs, we do have a question. So for each type of consultation, should a person bring one type of CV or just for every kind of job?
Typically, we'd suggest just one type of CV because this will be your, inevitably, it's going to be a generic CV, unless it is a CV that you've used to apply for a job. You'll have heard of reverse chronological CVs and functional CVs, and there's also one called a hybrid, which is a mixture of the two. I've attended quite a lot of military insight days with a number of employers who signed the Armed Forces Covenant, and their HR directors and their heads of recruitment all say they're looking for a reverse chronological CV. If that's what the employers are looking for, I'd question why you'd give them anything else. So when you come to a career consultation, I would strongly urge you, unless there's specific reasons why not, to bring a single reverse chronological CV, and we'll help you and work with you on that.
Right, and if you do need more advice on CVs, we do have a webinar that you can look up online on our YouTube page. So what should you expect to get out of it? What good will it do you? So as we've mentioned before, we have plenty of advice and insight to offer because we have consultants who come from a range of sectors and all ex-military, as Clive mentioned. Our networking contacts are amazing. Make sure you utilize them. We have a list available to you for you to use at any time. We give you clarification of potential future career opportunities. So even if you're not sure about where you want to be and where you want to end up, we can try and give you a little bit of a guiding hand, so to speak, right?
Or pointing you in the right direction, actually. That's one of the things we can help with, giving you pointers.
And recognition that you're not alone, that you've got transferable skills and you are very, very employable.
So career consultation providers, well, the first one on the list is the Officers Association ourselves, and we provide one-to-one career consultations, as I mentioned earlier, either during your transition from the armed forces to the outside world, or indeed after you've left the services.
And also, we don't just have a full one-to-one career consultation. We have many other little side branches to offer you as well. So if you just want a CV reviewed, that's 30 minutes. You can book that online through our portal or through our app. If you are applying for a specific role and you need a bit of guidance on what to put on a cover letter, you can also book that kind of appointment. So you don't have to have the full hour and a half. You can have half an hour slot that suits you.
Another consultant service is provided by the Career Transition Partnership, CTP, and they support and guide service leavers and assist them in finding suitable employment. The important difference between the OA and the CTP is the OA is a service that's there for you for life. So you can come back to us in 3, 5, 10, 20 years' time, whereas the Career Transition Partnership is only during your 2 years of transition. Typically, they'll run career consultations during the CTW, the Career Transition Workshop. And if you're offered one, I would strongly urge you to take that. The Regular Forces Employment Association, RFEA, who are co-located here in London with ourselves, they tend to provide vocational advice and job opportunities to all military veterans. So it's across the spectrum of military leavers, with regionally based comprehensive employment support. So if you feel that is an avenue that you'd like to address, do approach the RFEA, and there's some excellent people and they provide outstanding advice. There are others, including your own in-service career officers, and there are specialist career advisors, such as you may find in organizations like Help for Heroes and so on.
Okay, so what if you don't have a career consultation? Will it make any difference? I think, as a civilian who had recently graduated, when I first came to work here, I sat in on a career consultation, in fact, with Clive. And I believe that if I had one when I came out of uni, it would have been a lot easier for me to make that transition from education into full-time employment. You'd be crazy not to take up this free service. And okay, it's not essential to have one, but it might make a difference. So why wouldn't you use it?
Yeah, I think it's on offer to you. Even if you only come away with remembering 10% of what information is imparted to you. A career consultant gives information, so it tends to be a little bit of a one-way street, these meetings. But there's a lot of information being imparted. You may come away with something which could influence your whole future career. So my view is, yes, if it's on offer, why wouldn't you take it?
Exactly. And as Clive mentioned earlier, you can use this service as many times as you like.
And some people do.
So that leaves us for questions. Does anyone have anything to ask? Clive, I've got a question here saying, am I better off with an average LinkedIn profile or none until I get some advice on getting a better one?
An average one, probably, if you've already got it, I would leave it open to people looking at it, but I would recommend you get advice to improve it. One of the things about LinkedIn is that when you're applying for a job, an employer will almost 100% definitely look for your LinkedIn profile. It's not even 50-50. It's about 100% will look for your LinkedIn profile. So it does form part of your application for the job or your role with the organization. So I would urge you, if you have got an average one, is spend some time getting advice from experts on what to do with your LinkedIn profile and getting it up to scratch, so that as soon as you do start applying for jobs, you know that it really is the real thing.
Okay, I've got a question saying, do OA career consultations only take place face-to-face, or are they telephone Skype options? Well, you can come in, you can have an appointment in our York or Bristol office. You can do it online via GoToWebinar, and you can do it, of course, over the telephone as well.
We do quite a lot over the telephone, actually. But if possible, I would recommend a face-to-face consultation, because then you get a feel for each other and more confidence, I think, from your side in the career consultant you're speaking to. If you're only doing it over the phone, I find it quite difficult, at least initially, to establish a rapport with the client. And what you're trying to do is gain the trust of the client, so that when you give advice or recommendations, the client feels that is worth pursuing. So a face-to-face one if you can, but if you can't, certainly a telephone interview or a go-to meeting or a Skype one can be arranged. We don't do very many Skype ones.
Is the LinkedIn Premium service justified or recommended?
We use a LinkedIn expert, and I've attended several of his sessions, and he really is an expert in the true sense of the word. A gentleman called Lincoln Coots. And Lincoln Coots says, no, premium service is not worth doing and not recommended.
And a question on CVs. Can you remind us the type of CVs that you can have?
Essentially, there's several, but the primary ones that would affect service leavers on the whole are three. The reverse chronological, where you list out your career history, starting with your current role and then working backwards in time. The next is a functional CV, where you choose the 3 or 4 key functional areas where you have expertise and list those and add value to each of those. Say where you've used it, what the result of your using that particular functional skill was, and so on. And the third one is a combination of the two, which is a hybrid one, where you'll list your functional areas, but then give a short summary of each of the different roles you've had in your career. As I mentioned earlier, HR recruiters in major organizations like Zurich, like TfL, like Capco, who have signed the Armed Forces Covenant, all ask for a reverse chronological CV. What's the next question?
So, will a career consultant be able to transform a functional CV into a reverse chronological?
The problem with a functional CV, and why a lot of recruiters don't like it, is it doesn't really tell you when you use that particular functional skill. If, for example, you said one of your functional areas was health and safety expertise, you can disguise the fact that you last did something in health and safety in 2005. So you're kind of out of date. And that's the problem, is that recruiters and HR managers know this, that often a functional CV is used to disguise the fact that your functional skill area that you're selling yourself on, and which is relevant to them, the employer, for the job that you're looking for, that functional skill of yours is effectively out of date. You haven't practiced it recently. So it tends not to be a great way of doing it. Yes, we can help change a functional CV into a reverse chronological one, but actually all you've got to do is take the functional bullet points and populate them against the role or the position that you had at that various times in your career.
Okay, so there's another question saying, is it dangerous to apply to jobs before the consultation?
Not at all. We get people who come to consultations who've applied for many jobs. My best client ever came into my office and said, "Oh, I've applied for a job and I'm expecting a phone call." And before I got 10 minutes into the one-to-one consultation, the telephone rang and my client was offered the job there and then. That was fantastic. My most successful consultation. There's no problem in applying for jobs beforehand. Just recognize, we're not dealing with it in this webinar, but we will be dealing with it in next week's webinar, that applying for jobs isn't necessarily the best way of going about accessing the jobs market. Because if you apply for jobs, remember you're competing with a whole host of other people. And quite often the organization that you're approaching has already got a preferred candidate in mind. So you are struggling. It's a bit of an uphill struggle. But do apply for jobs if you see the job which is the right one for you. But certainly will help you in looking at job applications and how to approach these in the career consultation. How best to approach the market, how best to develop your CV, how best to develop your application process.
Okay, well, I think that's it for the questions. Oh, one last one. How long will employers wait for you to get out? That is, how long before your exit date do you start the campaign phase?
Inevitably, the answer is that it varies. If you are applying for a military internship, these are specific times of the year, February, March, or September. So you would need to be available to join that organization at the start of that internship. If you're applying for a job and you are offered the job, generally speaking, from my experience, the employer would expect you to be available within 1-2 months or so. However, if you have a particular skill set which the employer really wants, or he specifically wants you, then they will wait for you. And they can wait 6 months or more. So it depends very much on the job and the role and the organization that you're approaching.
Okay. And
any more?
Oh, can you choose who you have a one-to-one with?
Absolutely. If you don't want me, then we've got two lovely ladies here who are superb. Yes, of course you can.
Any more questions?
Simon, thank you very much for your comment. I hope that has been helpful. Very good. Well, the OA tries to run weekly webinars on subjects that, as Ashka has just pointed out, which are of interest and relevance to you, the service leaver or the person in transition. So next week, on Tuesday, 29th of May, our next webinar is on networking with our colleague Sophia Panowski, Director of Programs and Partnerships. And we'll be exploring the importance of networking and what to expect from it. So if you're available, do log into that. If you're not available and want to hear more about it, as Ashka said, these webinars are uploaded to YouTube and can be accessed at any time in the future to suit your own timings.
Cool. And make sure that you do connect with us. Follow us on LinkedIn, Twitter, and Facebook. Also download our app where you can book these appointments, so either the CV review or the full consultation. And have a good night. Thank you all.
Good night, everybody, and thank you for joining us.